Run, Frodo, run!
Aragorn, help!
Oh my god! It goes without saying that games based on movies have a pretty notorious reputation of being, well, lackluster to say the least. But that's not really too surprising, right? When you realize the fact that games based on movies have really a few things really working against them. First, of course, a hard release window, right around the same time as the movie itself, and missing that window is just simply not an option. That paired with the fact that development on the game a lot of times can't even begin until after the movie is nearly finished just to ensure a similar artistic theme throughout both products. It's actually more surprising that there are any good movie games at all, but surprisingly, there are a few out there. Now I'm seeing a lot of trailers for that train wreck that is The Rings of Power, and as bad as that show looks, it at least got me to go back and rewatch the Peter Jackson trilogy to remind me, of course, of a time when Hollywood released competent products. But while watching The Fellowship of the Ring, it actually also reminded me of one of my favorite movie games of all time, The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers video game. Man, this game was something else when it came out. Probably the best movie game for its time and still one of the best today in my opinion, though to be honest that could be a little bit of nostalgia on my part admittedly. Released originally on the Xbox and PlayStation 2 with a port later released on GameCube, the Two Towers video game was developed by Stormfront Studios and released on October 21st, 2002. A date that actually really matters here, considering the Two Towers movie didn't come out until almost 2 months later. Meaning if you got this game when it came out, you got to see many scenes from the movie prior to its release. And when I say you got to see scenes from the movie, I don't mean animated segments, I mean actual scenes from the movie. Stormfront Studios seemed so confident in their ability to recreate these iconic scenes in game, they actually would play parts of the movie and have it fade into the animated cutscenes, and for the time, this just looked unreal. These moments going from movie to game, or vice versa, really helped show the immense attention to detail they had when designing this game. I mean, Balin's tomb feels right out of the movie, and so does Helm's Deep. Even when levels show areas that we didn't see too well in the movies, like Amhen Hen, it still feels like it was ripped directly from the movie set. And the same goes for the characters. They not only made them look fantastic, but they even had the actors come in and record extra lines just for the game itself.
What's wonderful about this game, Lord of the Rings, is that you are getting on your own screen the voices of the original actors, all of them.
Help, Aragorn! Aragorn, help!
A lot of games try to find a way around this by having a similar sounding voice actor and, hey, listen, you gotta do what you gotta do. But at the end of the day, you just cannot beat having the actual actors come in and record lines. They also had the same effort when designing the fighting styles for each character, even going as far as to watch Viggo Mortensen and his stunt double spar. And listen, this sort of attention to detail should be standard for any movie-based game, but unfortunately it's just not. I almost get a little giddy talking about everything they did to make this game so true to the movie. Even levels not based directly on the movie still feel true to what was shown. Sure, there weren't any orcs shown in the Fangorn Forest other than the ones chasing Merry and Pippin, but it's not a crazy idea that some would be there. Same goes for saving villagers in the plains of Rohan. It's not in the movie, but it makes sense as something that might happen off screen. Not to mention the levels themselves just look great and are very much tied to the movie's art style. A big reason why everything remains so true to the movies is because, well, you know what, I'll let the developers explain why.
One of the advantages of being able to work so closely with the filmmakers is we were able to use the models and props that they created for the film as reference for the stuff that we needed to create in our game.
So they actually had the models and props from the movie at their disposal to base everything else off of. The fact they worked so closely to the production team of the movie really shows why this game looks and sounds just so good. But obviously, having everything look and sound nice is one thing, but how's the game itself? The gameplay is a little simple, yet overall very enjoyable. You have quick attacks, heavy attacks to break shields, a shove for environmental kills, parrying to block incoming attacks, and of course your ranged weapons. Bows for everyone except Gimli, who of course instead throws axes. As you play, you'll be able to upgrade your stats and purchase combos, including a insta-kill parry attack, which if timed correctly is just pretty overpowered, to be honest. But you do have to buy that upgrade for each enemy and for each character, but the button combo is the same regardless, so yeah, a little overpowered. The combo does have a pretty great animation for each character though, and because using it is tied to timing a parry, it does feel pretty rewarding when you actually do pull it off. Now, I mentioned different characters, and a really good thing about this game is how for almost all the game, you can choose between playing as Legolas, Gimli, or Aragorn. Now, this doesn't always make the most sense story-wise when you choose to do something like face Lurtz with Gimli instead of Aragorn, but you know what, I'm glad they included it, as well as different cutscenes for each character you can choose. As you'd expect, Legolas has quick but weak melee attacks, but also has the most powerful ranged attacks, and the bow is the main weapon you're able to upgrade for him. Gimli is like a walking tank, slow but powerful attacks, as well as the highest upgradable damage and health. And last but not least, Aragorn is the best of both worlds, right? You know, strong but swift attacks, good ranged attacks, decent sword and health upgrades. To be honest, Aragorn's probably the easiest character to play as, at least in my experience, though that could be my bias because of just how much I love his character in general. So one thing you might have actually already noticed here is that the Two Towers game isn't just based around the Two Towers, and actually starts all the way back in the Fellowship of the Ring, which is probably a good thing considering neither movie had really a ton of fighting. I mean, of course when it did, oh man was it great, but in the end, combining the two made a lot of sense, especially when you realize that the Fellowship of the Ring game released around the same time was just awful. By the way, made by XRP, not Stormfront Studios, and had no relation to the films. Now, because of this, the game starts way back at the Siege of Barad-dûr, playing as Isildur fighting through the armies of Sauron. This is really just a tutorial level to explain the combat, but damn, talk about a solid hook. The battle is raging all around you, lava cutting through the area, fighting alongside both elves and men, and ending in Sauron coming forward, and then a clip from the movie is showing Isildur just slicing off some fingers. A tutorial has no right to be this damn epic, but here it is. It introduces you to the basics of combat, requiring you to first use your quick attacks to kill off basic orc and goblin units, then using heavy attacks to break shields of heavier enemies, and last learning how to block and parry. Very simple, but if this is your second time going through and you already know all these things, you can even go around doing stuff like kicking orcs into lava, which is just tons of fun. Plus, no matter how many times I play it, I love these transitions from the movie to the game. Just damn is that smooth. It almost feels weird watching the movies and not seeing it change to a game at this point. It is just done so well. The main story of the game is mostly narrated by Aragorn, talking to Éowyn over at Helm's Deep, recounting his journey through both movies. And I would really love to show more of this between each level, but it pretty much exclusively uses clips from the movies, so for the most part we're going to kind of jump level to level here to avoid getting any copyright strikes from YouTube. So after a few cutscenes explaining everything, it jumps over to Weathertop as the Nazguls are attacking Frodo, and as Aragorn you must burn them with fire. It's actually really quick and easy to do, which is why even though it's not really called one, I kind of consider this as a tutorial for the bosses. Plus, having to use the fire to light your torch to hurt the Nazguls also shows that throughout the game you can actually use the environment around you to help take care of enemies. So yeah, I kind of consider it as more of an extension of the tutorial itself. Damn, I love that transition. The first real level of the game is the Gates of Moria, and I say real level because this is the first time you actually get to choose your character before you start, and that to me has always been one of the fun parts about this game, is playing through it as different characters, since one of the neat things they actually went ahead and implemented is that there's actually different cutscenes for every level depending on who you choose as your main character. Whoops, spoiler. The level keeps things pretty simple, just mostly fighting goblins. However, it also does introduce the goblin archers, as well as the idea of how ambushes work in the game, especially when you're in the water. After fighting all the way to the Door of Durin, you face the Watcher in the Water. Basically, it's a boss fight with a giant octopus. And it's actually a very easy fight. I for some reason thought this was much harder as a kid. I have no idea why. But all you actually have to do is just block the tentacles, slice one off, arrow to the face, and repeat. Maybe it was because I never blocked that much when I was playing as a kid, because I just wanted to go in just, guns a-blazing or maybe arrows launching and just go crazy with it. But really, it's actually really, really easy. But afterwards, you get a chance to fight in probably the most iconic spot of the first film, and that is, of course, the fight in Balin's tomb. And obviously, you gotta play as Gimli here, right?
You have to go for a Gimli.
Now, normally I would be very critical of a level that is just one room with waves of enemies coming in, but maybe again it's my nostalgia. But if you really love the movies, and frankly, how couldn't you? It just feels really cool to be fighting right there in just such a well-designed area. Plus, they even included the fight with the troll. Damn, these cutscenes are still pretty cool. To take down trolls, it's mostly just the hit dodge strategy, but in this encounter, you also have a moment of having to dodge its chain whip and kill it with ranged attacks, and it's still just a really fun level despite how simplistic it actually is. The fight at Amhen Hen, or Amhen Hen. Is it Amhen or is it Amhen? Please, someone leave in the comments below, because I don't know. I think Amhen, but I could be wrong. Either way, the fight at Amhen Hen, and I have to say, this is probably one of the better levels in the game. I mean, first off, it's actually in the daylight, right? So you can actually see around you. I mean, if I have one complaint about this game, it probably would be that a lot of levels are in pure darkness, which, I mean, yeah, it kind of sticks with the movie, but still it's kind of aggravating at times. So it's nice to have some, levels actually at daytime. It just makes things so much more clear. Plus, you gotta love that awesome cutscene similar to the movie. I mean, it's still just great. The main objective of the level is pretty simple. For the most part, you just need to make it mostly through the entirety of the level before Lurtz finds and fucks up Frodo. Run, Frodo, run!
Aragorn, help!
Oh my god! Okay, the failed mission scenes can be pretty great at times. I'm just gonna say it. For all the levels, just fail on purpose once, because a lot of times you get a pretty good cutscene. But once you do save Frodo, all you really need to do is kill the rest of the Uruk-hai to get over to Boromir and face down Lurtz. Oh, nope, wrong character. That's better. Like most boss fights in the game, Lurtz is pretty easy once you know kind of how to handle him. All he'll really do is try to shoot 3 arrows at you, in which case you just fire a couple arrows back after you block those 3, and then he'll just start going berserk. And once he goes berserk, it's kind of self-explanatory. I mean, you have statues all around the arena, just get him to whack one of those statues and he's stuck. At that point, all you have to do is just pummel him mercilessly. Fuck.
Mercilessly.
Thank you, Google. Okay, I know I keep saying this, but damn, those transitions are just so good. Now, finished with the Fellowship of the Ring, we get our first mission based around the Twin Towers. The Two Towers, going deep into the Fangorn Forest. Similar to the Gates of Moria, it's not actually something from the movie, but it's still something that fits quite well in it. Again, did they face any orcs while they were walking through the forest? It's not shown in the movie, but you can imagine it existing, so it works out pretty well. Plus, a forest level is a great spot for a lot of ambush attacks from both goblins and even one from a berserking Uruk-hai. Okay, I don't know what the hell is in that pit, but what I do know is I'm about to kick some goblins in it.
This is Sparta!
Oh look, 2 trolls at once. Trolls are actually pretty easy once you learn how to dodge properly. Plus, the fact they can friendly fire each other definitely helps.
In that great forest, many paths converged.
We must save everyone that we can, or this village falls.
So here we go completely off script to the plains of Rohan, saving villagers from Uruk-hai, and again, even though this isn't in the movie at all, it still feels alright for the game. Plus, more daylight levels are always good, so I'm not going to complain too much. Plus, we get to fight with Gandalf for like 2 minutes before he just fucks off somewhere else. I don't know why, and it's kind of weird because he's just kind of chilling there at the end of the level helping out some random villagers. Overall, the level's pretty good, you know, saving villagers before they get slaughtered. Damn, they really wanted those civilians dead. Plus, putting out fires across the village and eventually, of course, killing the last of the Uruk-hai. As fine of a level as the plains of Rohan are, the next level, the Westfold, is probably the most irritating level in the game, at least in my opinion. It's not that it's really particularly hard, it's just kind of irritating. The idea is you find Saruman's army moving explosives that you need to destroy, and that's not a terrible idea for a level, but it also introduces the suicide bombers. Fine, orc bombers, how's that, YouTube? Alright, thank you. So these orc bombers just run at you and explode over and over and over and over again. And yeah, one arrow will stop them, but it's just annoying when they keep coming non-stop. It's just not that fun. Though, I guess you could farm them for XP, but at the end of the level you get a chance to blow up the explosive convoy. However, we pretty much know that didn't really matter.
We could not let these creatures reach the refugees.
Now I said the Westfold is the most irritating level, but the award for laziest level goes to the Gap of Rohan. Alright, all this is a warg boss fight, and you would think fighting freaking wargs would be awesome. I mean, they're cool as hell. But in the game, they're kind of boring as hell. Killing the basic wargs is just too easy, but at the same time the boss's attacks are almost like impossible to dodge. Again, it's not like it's that hard, it's just really boring and lazy and just seemed to only be added because, well, wargs are in the movie, so they had to. Fortunately, after this level/boss fight, going forward is nothing but highlights because we have one of the greatest battles in movie history. The Battle of Helm's Deep. I know, you're tired of hearing it, but I mean, come on, these are so great of transitions. They did such a good job. I can't help but highlight them. Okay, this is it, right? And this is what you bought the game for. To play through one of the greatest battles in movie history. And the battle for the wall here is handled actually very well. The idea here is to simply keep the wall clear of orcs and Uruk-hai for a set amount of waves. Now, I know orcs and goblins were not at Helm's Deep in the books or the movies and only Uruk-hai, but the variety of enemies is actually very appreciated at this point. The status of the wall is shown in the top right corner of the screen, using a bar to represent how many orcs there are on the wall, and red dots to show you where all the ladders are for you to go and knock down, and works fairly well at keeping you pretty informed. You have your two buddies to help you out, plus plenty of elves to help add to the size of the battle. And real quick, because I know someone's going to mention it in the comments below, yes, I know elves never came to Helm's Deep in the books, but hey, it's based on the movies, and I'm glad they're here. As the battle rages on, they eventually start throwing harder and harder enemies at you, starting of course with the simple goblins, going up to more of the heavier orcs, and then eventually having Uruk-hai and berserking Uruk-hai just flooding the wall. Plus, through all of this, the Uruk-hai actually even start firing arrows and even catapults at the wall, which would be a problem if they didn't also again commit friendly fire and just practically clear the wall for you. If you ever feel like you're really getting close to like not being able to hold the wall anymore and you see the cutscene occur where they start shooting the catapults at you, take a deep sigh of relief because I'm telling you, they'll take care of more enemies than you ever will. After holding the wall long enough, things eventually begin to calm down and Gimli and Legolas can argue over their KD. Well, until the Uruk-hai eventually, blow up the wall. The breached wall is pretty much as you would expect. Like the movie, you gotta hold the door as long as you can so everyone else can retreat further inside the keep. Luckily, your allies are here to help. Wait, what do you mean they're not? But they're in the level's cutscene. Oh well, I guess they got more important things to do. Either way, you have to hold the door single-handedly from waves of enemies and a lot of orc bombers until eventually they start rolling in with a freaking catapult. Not too hard to stop, just pull a Fonz and give it a good smack and you're pretty much done. Oh, now you guys show up. Yeah, perfect timing. A wizard might never be late, but the same can't be said for elves and dwarves apparently.
We cannot hold them!
And here we are, the grand finale. The battle to hold the last gate of the keep. An arena filled with enemies and allies alike, and it's still actually pretty impressive and epic when you remember the time this game came out. Though, the amazing music just blaring in the background definitely helps a lot.
Our elf friend needs a hand!
As you hold the line, a few events will happen throughout. First, either Legolas or Aragorn will need your help up on the wall, in which you need to rush up and save them. Then eventually take out archers to stop them from firing at you in the courtyard. And eventually the Uruk-hai just kind of get tired of your shit and just send in a couple of trolls, because why the hell not? It's the last level, we gotta throw everything at you now. Luckily again, thanks to friendly fire and the fact they're too focused on the wall, they're actually pretty easy to take down. But either way, after you kill them, they'll fall through the wall regardless, and everyone will fall back inside, and, well, that's it. We get a short cutscene of the end of the movie, though they can't show too much because, remember, the movie wasn't out yet, and a message letting us know about the upcoming Return of the King game, but yeah, that's pretty much it for the main campaign. I admit, when replaying through this game, it kind of felt like a sort of abrupt ending, but you know, I don't know really what else you would have them do other than maybe a scene where you just ride out on a bunch of horses, and I don't think the technology at the time could have handled that, to be perfectly honest. But either way, fun main campaign going through all the points of the movies, and just it really is a blast to play through. And even though the main campaign might be finished, there is actually still quite a bit to do in the game itself. So before you finish the game, you can actually only replay missions with characters you haven't already played as to ensure you just don't go and farm XP early on. But after completing the game, you can go back and play whatever level you want with whatever character you want to help finish leveling them up. And if you're wondering why would anyone care about leveling up a character after the main game is finished, they actually give you a really decent incentive for it. Each character has their own separate path with unlocks on them at different levels. First one is just pictures of scenes from the two towers, which in a time before YouTube and really easily accessible internet was actually really cool to see. The second was an interview with whatever character you were playing as, and by the way, Gimli definitely has the best interview. And can I just say, I really miss when games did this. Include a long list of behind the scenes features. I mean, you have interviews with the main cast, with the production team talking about the whole process of designing the game, concept art, photos, just add everything together and you have over 30 minutes of extra content there alone. But the extra content isn't just the behind the scenes stuff, because after reaching level 10 with a character, you unlock the Tower of Orthanc. The tower is a bonus level where you get to take on 20 waves of enemies as Saruman insults you your whole way up. And it's actually decently difficult, especially your first couple times through, just because you don't really know what's going to be coming up next. My only real complaint here is I really thought you would get to fight Saruman on the top of the tower, but once you get up there, he just kind of goes Apula Bula Mulahu and fucks right off.
Apu Buya Muyaha!
See? Just like I said. So yeah, kind of anticlimactic if I do say so myself, but after you complete the tower with any character, you unlock the one, the only Isildur, son of Elendil. He's pretty much just a fully upgraded Aragorn, but still a really cool addition. And if you go back and play through the game as him, he'll actually take over Aragorn's spot in the cutscenes, which is pretty fun to see sometimes. Plus, if you go back through the Tower of Orthanc with Isildur, you'll actually unlock the final secret in the game. The cheat codes.
They're about to smash the barricade.
Oh my god, the trolls are the same size as Gimli. Okay, I know this might not seem like that big of a secret today where you can just Google anything wherever you want to, but back when there was no fancy smancy smartphones to pull things up on, yeah, you heard about there being cheat codes in a game, but you actually needed to unlock them to find out exactly what the combinations were. That's pretty much it. Overall, the Lord of the Rings The Two Towers game really is just an amazing example of what a movie game can be when both the creators of the movie and the game really work together to push out a solid product. Sure, by today's standards, it's pretty simplistic. However, for the time, it was a quality game that offered hours of gameplay and tons of behind-the-scenes features that, in a time before YouTube, were almost impossible to watch anywhere else. Alright, so I'm gonna be honest, I probably have a lot of nostalgia at play when talking about this game, so take this review with maybe a pinch of salt, but in all honesty, I really do enjoy this game a lot. It connects so well with the Peter Jackson trilogy of movies, as well as just a very competent hack and slash game at that. If you're someone who really does enjoy the Lord of the Rings universe, whether it be the books or whether it be the movies, let's just not talk about the show, but again, the books or movies, then I just don't know how you would not absolutely love this game. I just can't really recommend it enough, and it really does seem like it does stand a test of time. But either way, thank you so much for watching this, and hey, leave in the comments below what is your favorite movie-based video game, because like I said before, there are not really a lot of good ones out there, but there are a few diamonds in the rough. So what are some ones that you've played that you've really enjoyed and really think just really connect really well with the movies they're based on? Because I would love to add them to my list of games to try. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to be seeing you again real soon.